Okay, let's dive into one of history's greatest mysteries. We're talking about a structure so immense, so legendary, that ancient writers swore it dwarfed even the Great Pyramids. This might just be a time capsule, one that could totally rewrite everything we think we know about a lost civilization. So, where do we even begin with Atlantis? Well, we have to start with our only real source, Plato. But here's the thing people miss: Plato wasn't just spinning some fantasy tale. He did something really important. He cited his sources. And the entire story, every last detail, traces back to one single place: ancient Egypt. And that right there is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If this wasn't just a campfire story, but an actual historical record, then somewhere, buried in the sands of Egypt, there has to be physical proof. This is what kicks off the hunt for a real physical haul of records from a civilization that might predate the Great Flood. What's so crucial to understand from Plato is that the story of Atlantis wasn't shared as a myth. Nope. It was presented as history, and it was carefully preserved by the people who were, you could argue, the greatest record keepers of the entire ancient world: the Egyptians. You see, these Egyptian priests saw themselves as guardians of history, not storytellers. They told Solon about this incredibly remote era they called Zeptepi, which means the first time, a golden age before a world-ending flood. And they weren't vague about it. They had specific dates, claiming their records showed a great civilization fell right around 9600 BC. They believed they were guarding the history of a whole forgotten world. So, if you had a physical record of a lost civilization, where would you hide it? Well, funny enough, ancient historians from all different times and places all talked about this one structure in Egypt, a place so impossibly huge and complex it became a legend all on its own: the Labyrinth of Hawara. I mean, just listen to this from Herodotus, the father of history. He actually walked through its halls. He said he saw it himself, and it was greater than words can say. He claimed that all the temples and palaces of the Greeks put together couldn't even compare. To him, it wasn't just big. It felt like it was beyond human hands. And just to put the scale of this place into perspective, look at this. They said it had 3,000 rooms. That's more than double the number of rooms in the entire Vatican. It covered an area more than twice the size of the Pentagon. This thing was an absolute monster, with a huge upper level that people could visit and a mysterious, forbidden lower level. And here's the real kicker. The priests were super clear with Herodotus: you can't go to the lower levels. Why? Because that's where they kept the tombs of the kings who first built the thing. Now think about that. They were implying these were kings from an age long before the pharaohs we know, hinting that this whole structure was way, way older than anyone thought. For almost 2,000 years, the labyrinth was just gone, lost to time, buried under sand, written off as just a legend. That is, until modern technology came along and proved the old stories were completely true. The big breakthrough happened in 2008. A team from Belgium and Egypt, led by a guy named Louis de Cordier, showed up at the Hawara site. And they brought with them some seriously advanced ground-penetrating radar, ready to see what was under all that rubble. And wow, what they found was just stunning. The radar revealed this massive grid-like structure deep underground, with thick granite walls covering an area the size of 10 football fields. It was real. The stories from Herodotus and all the others, they weren't exaggerations. They were eyewitness reports. Now, you'd think this would be the archaeological find of the century, right? Front page news everywhere. Instead, just as the news started to break, it was totally silenced. Zahi Hawass, who was the big boss of Egyptian antiquities back then, shut the whole thing down. He literally put a communication ban on the discovery. And look, this wasn't a one-off thing. There is a very clear pattern here. Whenever researchers find something that seriously challenges the official accepted timeline, like that mysterious door in the Great Pyramid or the huge cave system found under Giza, the response is almost always the same: ban the researcher and bury the findings. But you know what? The story doesn't end there. Because in 2015, a private team with even more powerful technology decided to take another look. They scanned deeper than anyone had ever gone before. This new team was led by a satellite expert named Tim Akers, and they were using something called synthetic aperture radar. This is the same kind of tech the military uses to find secret underground bunkers. So they weren't just looking for walls this time. They were looking for the labyrinth's deepest, darkest secrets. And what they found is, well, It's just mind-blowing. Not one, but 4 separate levels plunging deep, deep into the bedrock. There was a central vertical shaft connecting all of them, and at the very bottom, a gigantic hall. But the most incredible part, the thing that changes everything, was what was sitting in the middle of that hall. A colossal, 130-foot-long object that gave off a clear metallic signature. So let's be really clear about what this thing is. It's not a coffin, it's not a statue. The scans suggest it's a freestanding object, shaped something like a huge upright ring or a disc. And its material signature was, well, weird. Unlike anything the experts had seen, but definitely metallic. Its shape suggests it wasn't just for decoration. It was functional. It was a piece of technology. So, how in the world does this all tie back to Plato's Atlantis? Well, you have this hidden, multi-level vault built by some pre-pharaonic civilization, and inside is what looks like a massive piece of tech. The amazing part is, the dates line up perfectly. This timeline is where it all just clicks. Around 9700 BCE, the Ice Age ends with a global cataclysmic event. Geologists now date the water erosion on the Great Sphinx to that exact same period, and Plato's date for when Atlantis was destroyed? 9600 BCE. You've got geology, history, and archaeology all pointing to the exact same tiny window in time. So just think about it logically for a second. If you were a highly advanced civilization and you knew a global catastrophe was coming, what would you do? You would build a vault, an archive, buried deep underground to save your history, your science, your knowledge for whoever came next. The labyrinth wasn't a tomb. It was a library. It makes perfect sense. The Giza pyramids were the great public monuments, these beacons you could see for miles. But the labyrinth? It was the total opposite. It was hidden, secure, a massive underground maze, naturally climate controlled by the earth. You don't build something like that for a funeral. You build it to protect something priceless. And here's the really scary part, the final urgent twist in the story. Right now, the rising water table in that part of Egypt is threatening the whole site. Geologists are actually warning that salt water is dissolving the bedrock and the labyrinth itself. The greatest library of the ancient world might be turning to mush right under our feet as we speak. So that's where we are. We have scans that confirm an ancient structure that perfectly matches the legends. We have evidence of a colossal, unknown metallic object sitting deep inside it. And the whole thing is facing imminent destruction. So if this really is the story of our own lost past, the real question is, why on earth are we still forbidden from looking?